On this Community Wednesday, let's break down the Cold War AUG. Just like the M16 that I covered a while ago, the AUG was part of an extremely annoying meta. These two weapons were part of the long-range meta, and thanks to their extremely great recoil and damage, people were being downed before they could even figure out where they were being shot at from. But of course, they both got nerfed, and the AUG got hit a little bit harder than the M16. But they've been slowly buffing the AUG over time, even a little more than the M16. So with all the changes with TTK and stuff, is the AUG finally worth using again? In this build, we're using the Agency Silencer, the 19.8-inch Task Force barrel, the Axial Arms 3x optic, Field Agent foregrip, and 45 round mags. So let's get into the stats, starting with mobility. It's got an ADS time of 300 milliseconds, which is identical to the M16's. Its reload and reload add times are 3.6 and 2.87 seconds, and it has a mag cap of 45, which means you'll get 15 bursts out of this. Its movement and sprint speeds are pretty good since it is a Cold War weapon, and it is slightly better than the M16's. And its ADS strafe speed is 2.07 milliseconds, and again, it's just slightly better than the M16's. However, its sprint out and tac sprint out times are extremely good, like SMG level good. However, with all of its stats, I probably wouldn't be using this as a close range weapon. It has a stability of 1.5T, but it covers a shorter distance much faster than the M16, so the two are pretty even. But its bullet velocity is a whole 111 meters per second more than the M16's, making it more suitable for long range combat. And most surprisingly, its rate of fire is actually identical now to the M16's. So it gets a mobility score of 36. Its recoil is pretty decent. Its 3 shots are evenly spaced on average, which means you can just pull down the same amount every time. Because of this, while it may take some getting used to, you can definitely use this up to 100 meters. So it gets a recoil score of 40. In the damage category, it has no drop off, so that second damage score that I have will cover everything between 30 meters and infinity. As you can see, it shares the same damage profile as the M16 as well. And since it has the same rate of fire, but better bullet velocity, you're going to see that in the first damage range, everything is exactly the same, but in the second, it is 10 milliseconds faster. Just like I said in the M16 video, if you're hitting any specific location, you're not going to be getting a great TTK. If you're only hitting body shots or even just upper torso shots, your TTK is going to be almost a second long, and under 30 meters, this is extremely bad. The only exception is if you only hit headshots past 30 meters, where your TTK is actually going to be 540 milliseconds. But that would be extremely hard to do. What you really want to do is get a 2 burst kill. And to get this, all you need to do is hit 1 headshot. But just like I said in the M16 video, this is a lot easier said than done. Since the burst happens really fast, it is very easy to miss just 1 shot, and now you're going to have to get a 7-shot kill anyways. But if you do end up getting that 2 burst kill, you'll get a very competitive 600 millisecond TTK in the first damage range, and an extremely great long range TTK of 790 milliseconds. So it gets a damage score of 25, and when we add up all the categories, it gets a final score of 101. This is a few points higher than the M16. Sure, it gets a few points above with mobility, but mainly what it is its bullet velocity. Because of its bullet velocity, it can now get a damage score of 25. Since it's actually more suited to engage targets at a longer distance. However, this is all theoretical, and it's up to the person using it to actually be able to hit those shots. Because it doesn't matter how good your potential TTK is if you're not hitting your shots. So I think it's quite interesting seeing the AUG and M16 balance the way that they are right now. It seems odd that the weapon with slightly better recoil doesn't have the range, but the weapon with worse recoil does. But the question is, should you use the AUG or the M16? Well, let's talk about the best way to use the AUG. Unlike the M16, with the AUG, you're going to want to aim for slightly lower mass at longer ranges. This means if you're not used to the AUG's recoil yet, you're probably going to want to stick to 80 meters or less. Since with the M16, you can just fire 2 shots at the chest and then just pull down on the very last shot, and you know you will probably hit the chest or the head. But if you do manage to master its recoil, you're going to be doing much better than the M16. Since the AUG just has better stats across the board, it's probably a safer bet to try to learn the AUG's recoil instead of just playing it safe with the M16. With the little time that I spent with the AUG, I could slowly feel myself getting better, so I can only imagine what would happen if someone actually tried to use this as their main weapon. And the thing about mastering the AUG is that once you do, you're gonna find yourself winning way more gunfights than you should. If you're constantly getting those 2 burst kills, it's gonna be really unfair for most enemies. And while you definitely should have a better close range weapon, something like a sniper support SMG, technically if you're ambushed and you don't have time to swap, you can also 2 burst someone and still have a competitive TTK. If they're ambushing you with a more DPS weapon like an OTS-9, you're definitely going to lose that fight, but if they're trying to hit you with something like an AK-74, you do stand a chance. So yes, you should definitely use the AUG, and it is definitely a better weapon than the M16. But if you just can't control its recoil, you can use the M16 and know you're only at a slight disadvantage. So if 2 equally skilled players were to meet, and one was using an M16 and the AUG, the person with the AUG will always win. So these changes to the AUG have definitely made it a better weapon, and I do think that it is now absolutely worth using. Thanks to its bullet velocity and relatively easy to control recoil, if you've been wanting to use the AUG, now's the perfect time. So try it out and let me know what you think. So that's the AUG. Have you used it recently? And if so, what do you think about it? And if you haven't used it yet, do you think you will? And as always, if there's any build, weapon, or part of the game you want me to break down, let me know and you may see it on the next Community Wednesday. But that's the video. If you enjoyed it or it's helped you in any way, let me know by leaving a like. If you got any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section down below, and if you want to make sure that you never miss another video, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.